Welcome to the Inner Moshpit. This is the first broadcast. This is where we interview members of the metal scene. Either they're in a band or a musician or people that basically that love their metal music and stuff that they go behind the metal scene, what they live with. So this is a forum or conversation, a space that we all basically talk and dive into certain topics. So today's guest, I've got JJ from T-Rex Autopsy. Behind the drum kit, JJ lives with a mental health disorder known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, known as ADHD. First, let's welcome JJ to the
How you
broadcast.
doing?
How are you, mate? As you can
Man,
tell,
yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me here, man.
no, it's all good, man. It's good to have you in the broadcast to share your story. So
Yeah, man.
we do want
Super
to
keen.
say thank you so much for for you to share your story. So mate, before we go into before we dive into the real shit, mate, what's happening with T-Rex? Any exciting news with T-Rex?
Oh, mate, man, it's like only the third month of the year, and things are already picking up. Gigs are coming out left, right, and center. We were pretty busy between the Christmas and the New Year period, from doing like the Christmas shows and New Year's shows with like King Parrot, and then in the New Year in January, heading up to Queensland to play with like Snake Mountain and other great bands. And then we had a bit of a break, in about February, and then now the start of this month, gigs have been coming to us left, right, and center. We got quite a big weekend in June. We got a gig. I think we got a gig at the end of this month, at the March 29th. I think it's called Thrashville, I think. And then in June, we have like 3 weekends in a row. We've got some regional shows coming up. A few more in August, I think. Um, and maybe like some more. I think we're going to head down to Melbourne at the end of this year, I think.
Yep.
Gonna have to confirm with the boys for that. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a packed year already, as far as I can tell. There's an album coming on the way. Not entirely sure when that's gonna drop, but it's coming, and it's sounding pretty good so far. What else has been going on? We got Lyric as the new guitarist in our band right after Matt left, and yeah, no, Lyric is an amazing guitarist. We're so happy to have him on board. I'm probably the most excited. Of course, everyone's excited to have this guy on board because
Yep.
not only is he young, he's very talented, very very talented, and I'm probably the most excited to have him on just because we have the similar tastes in music and how we write music and whatnot. So yeah, it's this year is looking super positive for T-Rex.
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. If anyone that had not seen T-Rex live, we interviewed Ross and Craig last year at the Elton John gig, and we got some good footage of Josh or JJ playing the drums. JJ drumming for T-Rex is a great addition to the band, and that's what brings that dynamic with T-Rex. So I thought I'll just let you know your drumming brings that extra dynamic.
Mm-mm.
So
Thank you.
that's one things I enjoy about watching T-Rex is you behind the drum kit. So, what made you want to play the drum kit in the first place? What made you want to pick up the drum kit?
Well, man, look, I've always been into music, and I've always been into just like rhythm and drums. I've always been into tapping on a table or tapping on my legs or whatever. I've always been into rhythm and just music in general. Um, and then I started playing drums in like primary school. I was very young. I think it was like year 5, and I
Yeah.
played a little bit with the teacher. And then I think I just I stopped after that. Like I practiced a little bit outside of school, and then I think he left to go live in Canada. And then after that, I just kind of just stopped for like pretty much my whole like young life. I only played it a little bit as a kid and a little bit out at home. So yeah, just as you do when you're growing up, you lose interest in things and you change. So it's pretty normal. But like I've always had this connection to rhythm and music because I grew up in a musical household. My dad is a jazz. He plays jazz saxophone. So I pretty much grew up around jazz and fusion and whatnot. So yeah, I played a little bit as a kid, and then I only started playing drums again when I first joined T-Rex like years and years ago before they were T-Rex. At that time, it was the Panopticon project. And yeah, that goes like a while back. I think that may have been um 2017, 2018, I think, around that time. So yeah, I joined them and I played for a bit, but it was more of just like a fun thing. It wasn't really like a passion yet. It was just like, oh, I'm playing drums and whatever. And I didn't really give it much of a second thought. Quite strange actually. And then yeah, I left the band. Actually, they they got rid of me. But that was purely on my part. I wasn't really being a good bandmate. Um, and that's just part of growing and life. And then yeah, I came back overseas because I was working in England at the time, and then I came back and then I hopped on the drums again because at the time T-Rex had Jake Elder on drums. And then when I came back, he was starting to exit from the band. And then yeah, Craig called me back in to be like, can you help us out with some gigs? And I said, yeah, fine, like totally. I'm always going to help my boys. Um, so yeah, I just went with it. I like brushed up on drums a little bit more and just got everything, all my parts get down pat and tight so I could help the boys out with this gig. No dramas. And at this time was when a lot of my mental health struggles sort of started to surface and kind of show themselves. But yeah, like once I started playing, helping out with gigs with the T-Rex guys, and doing like practices and going to Craig's house to jam and rehearse and just go over things. It was really quite strange because something just clicked in my head one day, and I was just like, wow, like drums is actually for me. Like I think drums is my passion. I'm enjoying it. I love music. I didn't realize that something I was good at was like I didn't realize that I let go of something that I was truly talented and passionate about. And yeah, I can't describe what it was. I just realized that this was the path for me. Something that I'm good at, and something that I find peace and strength in, and creativity, which is the most important thing. And then from there, I just started to dedicate myself to the art and to the instrument because I knew that there was potential there. There's always been potential there. From early childhood till like I think it was 2022. I think that's when like the pandemic really ended, sort of. I think it's been a while. It's been a blur since the pandemic. But yeah, no, I guess the rest is history. That's pretty much what's made me get into drums and stay on drums. It's just the love for music, the love for the healing it's provided me, and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. No, basically, a couple of years ago during the pandemic, I joined a band myself,
Mm,
and I was going through, that's where my mental illness was starting to surface as well. And I was lucky that I had a platform to be in the band. They're not around anymore. It was Average of Madness. So, I had a platform to use my craft similar as you, and I found that I was healing as well. And I was having a good period of my life because that creativity, it actually distracts from the service of what you go, what I went through personally, and it helped me. It was my cure, music's the cure,
Mm.
for musicians or people listen to it. And as a musician, during when things start to service, it's not really for me, from my perspective, it wasn't really like, like a serious thing. It was like, okay, cool, I got this. It's helping me. So, I'm sure that you related to that with your drummings. That's why you got better and better, because you dedicated to the craft, and it became like a mission
Mm. Mm.
for you.
100%. Just it's about in my early days of really getting back into drums. It's more like, the vibrations of the music is healing us. The power of, vibrations, sending those positive vibrations, especially on drums when you're banging shit all the time.
Yeah. Well, you got a good outlet to use your frustration on,
That's
on
it.
from.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Healthy outlet.
Yeah. Mate, you mentioned that that's when your mental health started to surface. What kind of experience did you had was it anxiety? Was it, just normal stress? What kind of insights can you give us when you reflect that time when it started to surface?
Um, just like my symptoms, I guess, and what I was experiencing.
Yeah, just basically, did you feel like, was it more anxious? Were you overthinking, or did you feel like you weren't focused?
I think in the early days of my mental health sort of journey, and when those first symptoms show themselves, a lot of it was quite a lot of depression and anxiety.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of depression, anxiety, overthinking. That's like the main sort of hardships that I've had to sort of deal with. Because I just coming back from England, I just got out of a pretty toxic like relationship or situationship, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
And yeah, that relationship caused a lot of um, like anxiety, a lot of like panic, and rational thinking and reactions. And yeah, it was pretty nuts. And then coming home um, from that and having to deal with it back home, yeah, it was pretty hard. A lot of situations I can tend to overthink. Just general like depression. A big one is like loneliness, which makes depression just like a hell of a lot harder, because you don't really have anyone in your immediate surroundings to lean on, and it's not really easy to reach out to people, just because of like the stigma, or whatever messages you have in your own head. But yeah, no, a lot of depression, a lot of overthinking, um, quite a lot of anxiety. Not much now, but yeah, a lot of anxiety, and yeah, a lot of irrational thinking, a lot of emotional thinking. Making a lot of decisions based on my emotions, which I've done quite a lot in my early, like late teens, early adulthood. So yeah.
yeah. So, like during that time, like, did it go to a point when you're like, did you get therapy? Did you get like counseling during that period? Did you had someone to talk to? You said you felt lonely, but did you go see a doctor during that time just to get like a basic therapy? Because with my experience back a few years ago, like I just went to a GP and I said, look, I'm not feeling well. And in Australia, well, basically, I think it's Medicare, they do the 10 sessions
Mm.
for Medicare. So did you do that in the early days before?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, therapy has been kind of been a long journey as well, because you got to find the therapist that's right for you. But yeah, no, I definitely went to I started at my GP, told them about depression and anxiety, and then you fill out that sheet, and then yeah, no, I think I got my 10 sessions, and I got put on antidepressants, Lexapro.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really like, oh, let's talk about your symptoms and strategies. It was just like, here's this drug, take it.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good for a while. And I think I was going to therapy at that point. But yeah, I was taking that. I was doing some form of therapy, just from like my 10 free sessions. Um, but yeah, just struggling with, feeling secure and I guess just happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've seen quite a few therapists. I went to just like kind of a normal one, like in Campbelltown here,
Yeah.
um, just like a government one. I don't know. And then I've done like CBT, behavioral therapy. I've gone to like private counseling. I've taken out of my own pocket to go to like a private counselor, which the one at the time was really, really good. He actually uncovered a lot of my, I guess, issues that are like really, really deep down. So yeah, I guess like, yeah, in the start it was antidepressants, a bit of therapy, bit of a blur. I can't really remember much, but I wasn't on the antidepressants for long. After a while, they really made me feel like a zombie. I didn't try any other medication because I was just scared. Like I didn't like, how are the other ones going to make me feel if I felt this bad on an antidepressant. Um, and then like shortly after, like, finding drums, as well, and then like really like, oh, this is going to help with my
Yeah.
mental health, and giving myself purpose and security.
Yeah, so you pretty much I can actually relate to those days as well from my experience. Like this would have gone about 6 years ago. I just felt down. I just felt depressed, and so I did the 10 sessions just in Campbelltown as well.
Mm,
I found it a good help, and it managed to make me feel good. But then as life can be, it goes up and down. So, I started to go on
mm,
my downs, and I just didn't feel alive. I just didn't feel like I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy that where I am in my life. This is before I started to play bass. This is before I started to pick up the bass guitar. And I went back to the GP, got the 10 Medicare sessions, and I just told the therapist, because he was like a hippie. He was just so positive, just didn't want to listen to me. I
mm,
just didn't get that kind of, I just didn't, and I was kind of like, looking back, I didn't have the mental capacity to go, hey, you're not right for me. I'm going to get something else. I'll just go, oh, fuck, I'll just stick and argue with him.
mm,
And I ended up arguing with that therapist, and he gave me antidepressants. And when I was on those antidepressants, it made me feel like a zombie. Like people that know me, when I'm happy, I'm very loud, and I wasn't loud. I was very quiet, didn't want to
mm,
talk. Um, so I had those kind of experience, and then that's when I realized that this is where from my perspective, my emotions were amplified. The antidepressants didn't calm me down; they made me agitated. So in my impulsivity, based on my at the time I didn't know I had PBD, but it looked like it made sense looking back. I just snapped, and I would just go and have a mental breakdown, and I would just use texting and that kind of stuff.
mm,
I guess that when you're going through that therapy, because during our pre-production, you mentioned that you got ADHD not long ago. So was there a point where these signs was like you said to yourself, look, man, I don't think I got anxiety. I think I've got something more serious.
mm,
And because did it feel like it was impacting on your life, your personal life? That you have to say to yourself, look, man, I think I've got something more serious
mm,
than just depression or
mm,
anxiety.
mm. Yeah, so yeah, I got diagnosed only in September 2023.
Yeah.
And one thing I just forgot to mention in the previous question is, as well with like depression, anxiety, the loneliness, the feeling of insecurity, that whole and all that stuff started to surface and show itself, manifest itself within me, as well as like I'm not, I won't go into detail, but I have suffered from addiction, and like, drug addiction, any other like substances, not to the sense where, I'm like, just shooting up and whatnot. It's just, impulsive behaviors for, emotional regulation. And that was a big part. That's a big part of ADHD as well, as your impulses, your seeking of, pleasure seeking and dopamine. So in conjunction with that, around 2023, I moved out of home, to rent with a mate, and because I took on this new like chapter of my life, living out of home. I mean, yeah, I went, I did like live over like England, but this is a bit different just at home. I'm finally like kind of settling down in my own place, and creating a life for myself. But then I noticed, with living out of home, taking so much more responsibility on myself, managing my own life, going to work, playing in the band, and really having to support myself as an individual. That's when I noticed, when like I just wasn't concentrating and I wasn't focusing. I was getting overwhelmed. I wasn't keeping track of things. Just not focusing. Still, impulsive, regulated in my emotions. So I was like, hang on, I'm not able to concentrate. So I actually went to my mum and asked her, like, did I get tested for anything when I was a kid? And she said, yeah, but we didn't want to put you on anything because, we didn't really know anything about the drug. And I was like, oh, okay, like, fair enough. So, and then I wanted to actually go get myself checked out. So I went to GP, told them I may have ADHD, blah, blah. They put me in contact with a psychiatrist. And then I went on like, I think I went on like a 3-month waiting list, or 3 or 6 months. It wasn't that long.
Yeah.
And then, and then, they told me I have ADHD, and I got put on medication. I got put on Ritalin.
Okay.
And I took Ritalin, and it really did help with, being on the ball, getting to work, getting shit done. I don't take it as much today, but along with, conjunction with my Ritalin, I was getting therapy at the time, getting free therapy through my job, which I don't work at anymore. But those would the initial like symptoms that I noticed and realized, something was wrong.
Yeah, we talk about basically ran down some of the symptoms that you experience. I've based on the website that I've just looked at for the symptoms for ADHD. It's a bit. I can start the stuff from a broader personality disorder perspective. I can understand the impulsiveness, the mood swings.
Yeah.
What I've noticed, like this is probably based from your perspective. Did you also feel that, did you have, because they also say that the symptoms may include disorganization and problems prioritizing, poor time management skills, trouble multitasking. What else has it got? Problems following through, completing tasks. It sounds like it's more like organizing and that kind, and then. But that's from the other side, from besides the mood emotions. Did you experience those kind of type of symptoms as well?
Oh, of course. I still experience them today. You know, Yeah, very much, but through like therapy, like the recent therapy that I've gotten now, like I'm so much better at, emotional regulation and
Yep.
the mood swings. I can regulate myself quite well. Takes a lot of practice, but it's not impossible. And the impulsiveness, so much better with that is because once you know and you're educated, because that's the big thing as well as education. Once you just know, it's easy just to identify and just be like, okay, I'm feeling this way. Um, excuse me.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, they're all, and 100% the organizational stuff. Oh yeah, man, just trying to organize yourself, and like even it's like it's very strange. You want to do these things, but sometimes it's so hard. Some days, if it's so hard even like ever because of the executive dysfunction, which prevents us from engaging in you know mundane tasks because it doesn't breed novelty. That is something I still need to work on now a lot is organizing myself and better time management. And what was the other one? I think that's it. Yeah, just organizational skills and time management is really the big thing. A lot of the admin stuff, the boring stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely share those traits in ADHD 100%.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned education because I'm in the process of educating my own disorder because I just found out just basically in February, so just about to, we were just in March, just basically like a month ago. So I think that once you know what you got, so once you saw the psychologist and they said you've got this, did you feel like yes, it makes sense? And now that, as you just said, you had the tools and you learned about it, so that was kind of like the step in the writing stone. I guess I want to go dive a bit more deeper, more of the personal side of things, living with it, living with ADHD, and from your perspective, did it have an impact on friendships? Did it have an impact on relationships? Or did you feel like that? Do you feel like is the metal scene been helpful for you? With this condition, did you feel any struggles with living with it in the scene or in a social environment?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's getting the diagnosis is like almost a double-edged sword because you just have that on one side you have that aha moment where it's like, oh, okay, I'm this, and you recognize all these patterns, and you're like, I did this because of this, and I did that because of that, and I reacted this way because of this, and then how it made me feel, and all my emotions and impulsivities and hyperactivities. It's like you're like, oh, okay, and then you can kind of move forward from there and be like, okay, I know myself better. Now I need to use. Now I need to use the. Now that I know, I need to go look for the tools that can help me to to you know change my trajectory to a different path, a
yeah,
path that is not blinded by an undiagnosed ADHD. You just have this knowledge and you can go through and really tackle the problem. Um, the other side of it, the negative side, is kind of a lot of people who have a lot of late diagnosed people talk about the uh, I guess the post diagnosis, I guess depression, if you want to call it that. Um, you know, where it's like you look back at your life and you see how it's gone over the course of all your years of growing up, what you've experienced as a child, what you've experienced in school, in your academic life, and how you've grown up in school, how your academics, how your relationships with people have developed, your relationships with your family, and you look back at it, how like you know you kind of think like, was I good enough, or I could have done better if I knew earlier. And you just kind of look back and you reminisce of all the times that could have been. I know it's not. it's not definitely not worth it looking back, because looking into your past is, really not going to push you forward in any way. Um, it can motivate you, but it's just something that happens. It's really as simple as like, what could have been, or could I have done things differently? Could I have talked to this person differently? Could I have applied myself differently? Could I have not made the choices that I made? Um, with myself, that could potentially,
Yeah,
harm myself and others. And that's just really part of it. But the good thing is that the good part about it is that you can correct that. You can really go really deep and do the research, and be authentic and truthful to yourself, because you can be more authentic because you know more, you have this knowledge, and you can, now you've unlocked your authentic self, and now you can put in the real work that
yeah,
takes to um, really rising above yourself, and becoming a better person. um, with the metal scene, I only have positive words for the metal scene. You know with my mental health, um, issues and hurdles. A big part of that was, and a big part of that, um, you know, now sometimes can be, loneliness. It can get lonely, especially, you by yourself, a lot of the time. So it's up to us to really do the work and get out of that headspace. But it can get lonely. That is a big thing that's been thrown around lately, and the metal scene has been um, freaking fantastic for that. I When I go out to gigs, man, I just love seeing the people that come there for us, the people that come there for me, and the family that we have with all our close friends in the local metal scene. It's like a little family. It's so good seeing everyone smile when you come into the room, and you set up, and you have a good time with friends. So, um, yeah, no, I have love for all the people that I've met in the metal scene. It just that sense of community and friendship, and sharing, all things heavy, because that's what we're all there for. We're all there to listen to heavy music and just have a good time. Being able to express myself musically and creatively, yeah. Being able to do that in front of people has been a childhood dream for me. Um, and sometimes, I can forget that and be like, oh man, I just want to play on big stages, and I want to have a big crowd. But like, I yeah, I've learned to really appreciate the local scene, because just seeing your friends up close,
yeah.
just rocking out and playing out, I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's one thing, a good thing about the metal scene, like it's a sense of belonging. When I first joined in with my, a couple of years ago, it is a very opening, inclusive, they do let you in inclusive and stuff. And, there is, it's like a family environment,
Mm.
like, is there like anything that you would say with someone that's in the scene, that's probably going through their own demons, and they're going through their own, they might have, they're going through their own struggles, and they try to reach out, or they don't want to reach out because, not because they have this, there's a lot of things that, from my experience, a lot of stigma, a lot of narratives that basically go, oh, it's a bit too much for me, so they just listen. Or do you, is there anything that you feel that you'll say to people that are feeling like that they don't feel that they can talk about it? Is there something that you feel like, what can you do? If someone wants to feel, just not
Mm.
themselves, or feel like
Mm.
there's something wrong with them, because they might not feel what you feel, they might feel the opposite. So is there something that, what would you say to people like that do have these kind of experience,
I
and they
would
feel?
say, the thing is, with a lot of this stuff, there is still, it's getting better. It's always getting better. Just with education and just awareness. But there's a lot where the stigma of is sorry, the thing that's around mental health is there's still that a little bit of that stigma, and what fuels that stigma is shame. There's a lot of shame carried in mental health, um, and people kind of, I guess, when they want to open up, they don't want to because they do feel ashamed, because there's still that stigma. You don't want to talk to someone because they might just brush you off. You may share the information with the wrong person, even though they're somewhat close to you. And shame's not a good emotion. Shame fuels a lot of negative. Well, it is a negative emotion, but it builds a lot other negative emotions, off of it. Like in my case, how shame really fuels addiction. Shame is like one of the main sort of culprits um, when it comes to drug addiction, and in a way that is, I guess, it's somewhat good to an extent, because you need to protect yourself. You need to be able to speak to the right people that are going to listen to you. Um, But I say the one thing that I believe personally that helps with a lot of mental struggles through your life is to talk about it. Because when you talk about it, you've relinquished shame, and I guess in a way you're owning it, and you're saying, hey, I'm not okay, and I don't feel ashamed in you know talking about it and being open about it. And when someone wants to when someone is willing to listen to you and
Yeah.
be there for you and acknowledge you, it can be quite liberating. And it can be like, okay, there's people here that are not ashamed of me, and they don't show me shame, and that I'm worth more than than I realized. I know with my problems and my mental health problems and my struggles with addiction. I was very ashamed at first to talk about those sort of things because there is a stigma around it, and I don't want to feel judged or feel like I'm gross or a weirdo. But you know with a lot of work within yourself and in your community and with professionals, um you know it does help to share. I believe, to the right people. Share it and know that there's people there that are looking out for you and that understand
Yeah.
your situation, and really to share it with people that are going to show you love and security. I know for me personally, I'll give my ear to anybody to talk about. If I'm at a show and you need to talk about something, want something to be heard, like I'm all ears. I'm always there for everybody. Because I've been through it all, so I'm always down to make time for someone. But yeah, I guess what I'm getting to is just it does help to talk about it. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that when you mentioned earlier, like, it's like the first thing for change, like it does start with yourself. And that's where you start learning and you start, like I'm going through, right, I'm currently doing it. Like I can't really, I'm still part of my journey where
Mm,
you're on your journey. So I guess what I'm saying is that it starts with yourself. And then you talked about how you felt when you got the right diagnostic, and I was the same as well. I was like, yes. And that's when we started to learn about it, study it, learn, and then reflect, and then we look at actions and what we've done, and to go forward in life, because that's what it's about. Like, it's like a mosh pit. You don't see anyone. If you see someone down in the mosh pit and they need help, no one's going to let them stay help. You got to pick them up. That's what a mosh pit is. It's not. You go in, you go and you have fun, you have madness, and then you go, okay, pick yourself up. So that's one of the things that you said that. And I guess that I want to go a bit more into lifestyle, because I'm in a process where I know I have to find the right lifestyle with my condition, my disorder, and don't use it as an excuse going forward. It's more about what because I can't remember if I mentioned it during the interview. With with myself with borderline personality disorder, and you with your ADHD, there's no cure. So therapy and understanding and trying to get emotional tool and learning how to use that in emotional tools, because from when I look back in my life for all these years, I didn't have the emotional tools. I'm not making excuses. That's what I've done. I've identified I didn't have the emotional tools, and that was verified through my personal therapy that I had. They've said that, okay, you experience this type of emotion. Do you know what this emotion is? And I'm like, no, because that leads to childhood. So there's kind of like, I'm in the process where I'm going to look for one lifestyle where I've got to go forward and go, hey, that's what I need to do to keep myself in check, because I can't go, oh, I've got this, because that's in the past. And you go, whatever I do in the future, I've got to like learn and manage that. So I guess with your journey towards healing, like, did you have to adapt your lifestyle? Do you have to adapt something lifestyle that you have to, because now that that you've got to learn to live with it. So did you have to like alter your lifestyle, alter kind of things that you feel like to bring you peace for yourself?
Yeah, a little bit, man. Well, actually, no, quite a lot. One big thing, was emotional regulation, is really learning how to do that, going to therapy, learning about your values and what type of person you want to be, and what just going through different thinking patterns and what those thinking patterns mean. Overthinking and catastrophizing, tunnel vision, all those things. So really having to catch myself in the moment if I wasn't feeling good, if my emotions were unregulated. Making sure I'm not getting overwhelmed with too much information, because a lot of information can just overwhelm me. I'm just like, I can't, like, it's just too much, and it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. Feeling really overwhelmed and having to organize myself. What else? I guess keeping my brain busy so I don't fall into bad patterns that give me instant gratification and short-term dopamine, with long-term side effects. Really trying to create more value in my life, and get more hobbies and whatnot that are going to keep me entertained, because the ADHD brain thrives on novelty. If you can harness that novelty into healthy things and creating better skills, then you're already on the right path. So it was really a lot of it was really reparenting myself, because a lot of behaviors would a lot of behaviors that would manifest would be things I've experienced in childhood. So a lot of those early ADHD days was really I was going to say so reparenting. I would get really emotional, so I would have to really question myself and ask why I'm getting emotional, and really creating safety for myself, within myself, to feel like a sense of security and worthiness from those things in childhood.
Yeah, that's good perspective to what you've just said. Going forward, mate. I just want to say thank you for joining for the conversation. Sharing your personal stories and your steps towards healing and how you're living with it. I basically, this is where we invite the viewers that are watching this. If you got, any mental health disorder like ADHD, PPD, bipolar. If you're struggling with it, if you live in Sydney, myself and JJ, we would be happy to listen to you and guide you what you guys need. Those that live in no matter what city you live in, if you feel like the community that you're in is not engaging and there's a bit of frustration, or you feel it's engaging for you, this is the forum where you can be free and discuss, because you don't shy away if you feel, if I don't want to say this because I'm upset that this person will get upset with me. It's not about being judged. It's about understanding your perspective. It's about learning what you go through, and so your stories can be shared on this platform. If you feel there's positive, you highlight the positive. If you feel there's negativity, highlight the negativity. So this is that we use the Inner Moshpit to talk about that, because we want to sugarcoat things, and if there's things that you listen to the interview, if you agree to what we had in our conversation, comment. If you don't agree, comment and tell us your experience. It's all about listening and building a network so we can bring awareness when we go into a real mosh pit, and we can understand. It's all about understanding each other.
The metal scene is really good. Everyone's welcome and everyone's inclusive. And as well as you mentioned before, picking up someone from the mosh pit, we really need to, pick up, our mates and everyone else. Mentally speaking, we need to pick each other up from the ground and help each other out, because we're all human. We're all human. We have issues, whether we, and some of us make mistakes. But as long as we're, trying to be better people, and help each other out and just show love, compassion, understanding, we can all get to a better place. And those that are struggling mentally, don't be afraid to talk about it, and just keep making music. If you're an artist, if you're a musician, let that fuel you. Let your whatever's inside of you, let that fuel you, and let it come out creativity, because creativity and writing and expressing yourself is such a good tool. And we're always here to help out. Love seeing everyone at the show, love seeing my friends. Always here for a helping hand for anybody.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful words that you put in, man. And so we'll wrap it up. This interview is hopefully we get this available on Spotify. So we'll basically, if you're watching this video, please share the video around, comment. For us to bring awareness into this scene in this country, or just in life itself around the world, if we don't share it, we don't pass it around, these individual stories like JJ's story per se, they don't get heard, because basically JJ just shared what goes inside his head, his emotions, what he lives with ADHD. People think that that's for kids only. It does affect adults, and you just heard JJ's story. So thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoy the content, and let's start conversations, and let's help each other heal as we go forward, because change is possible, healing is possible, and just like in a mosh pit, you see someone that's down, we pick them up. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.